I was teaching at a small public school in Ibadan, struggling to balance my life between lesson notes, chalk-stained hands, and an income that was never enough. Every day, I saw the desperation of students who wanted to learn but lacked books, uniforms, or even food in their stomachs. Still, I held on, because teaching was more than a job to me, it was a calling. One evening after school, as the orange sun began to sink behind the rusty zinc rooftops, I heard a faint knock on my gate. Tired and ready to collapse on my bed, I almost ignored it. But the knock came again, hesitant, almost fearful. I opened the gate and found a boy standing there. He couldn't have been more than 16. His shirt was faded beyond recognition, his sandals were worn thin, and he clutched a torn exercise book to his chest like it was treasure. His eyes, wide, honest, and trembling, met mine. "Auntie," he said, his voice almost breaking, "I heard you help students sometimes. Please. My WAEC form deadline is tomorrow. My mother is sick. My father is gone. I don't have anyone else. Please, just help me write the exam." I froze. I had never taught him. I didn't even know his name. But something about the way he stood there, not begging out of laziness but out of genuine desperation, pierced my heart. I asked him how much the form was. 19,500 naira, he whispered. I went inside, opened my small purse, and stared at my account balance scribbled on paper. I had just 21,000 naira. That was all I had left until the next month. Paying for his form meant risking my own survival. But something in me, maybe God himself, whispered, "Do it." With trembling hands, I transferred the money. The boy dropped to his knees, tears streaming down his cheeks. "Thank you, Auntie. Thank you. You've saved me." And just like that, he disappeared from my life. The years rolled by like dry leaves blown by the wind. I forgot his name, his face, even the sound of his voice. My own life began to crumble. My teaching job was cut during budget reductions. My mother, my only anchor, passed away after a brief illness. I was left alone, wandering through days that seemed darker than nights. I moved to Lagos with nothing but a small suitcase and bigger dreams. Lagos was not kind. I stayed with a distant cousin who made it clear I was a burden. I hawked small items, typed CVs for 200 naira per page at cybercafes, and prayed every day for a breakthrough. One day, I heard about an opening at a multinational company. It wasn't a teaching role, but it was something. One chance. Just one. I polished my worn shoes until they shone, ironed my only good blouse, and carried my CV as though it was my passport to heaven. The night before the interview, I couldn't sleep. I prayed until my knees ached. "God," I whispered, "if there's ever been a time to remember me, let it be now." When I entered the company building the next morning, I almost turned back. The glass walls, the shiny marble floor, the well-dressed staff moving briskly with confidence, I felt like an intruder. My hands shook as I held my file. The HR assistant smiled politely and said, "The final decision will come from our new regional director. He's young but brilliant." I nodded nervously, trying to calm the storm in my chest. Then the door opened. He walked in. Tall. Confident. Sharp suit that spoke of success. He carried himself with the ease of someone who had conquered battles I couldn't even imagine. But then, something strange happened. He looked at me, really looked, and froze. His eyes softened, his jaw trembled, and for a moment, the confident man became that boy again. "Excuse me," his voice cracked. "Were you once a teacher in Ibadan?" I blinked, confused. "Yes. Government secondary school." He smiled. Not just a smile, but the kind that carried years of gratitude. His eyes glistened. "You paid for my WAEC." The room went silent. The other interviewers looked at each other, surprised. He stood up slowly, adjusting his tie, and said to everyone, "I am who I am because one woman saw me as more than just a poor boy. I owe her my entire career. He turned to me. His voice broke, but his words carried the weight of destiny. This job is yours. But more than that, you have a seat at any table I sit at, for life. Tears filled my eyes. The boy I once helped, the one who knocked on my gate with nothing but a torn book, was now the man offering me not just a job, but restoration. Today, I work in that company. Not as a struggling applicant, but as a trusted board advisor on youth outreach. He created a scholarship fund in my name. Together, we send children from villages to school. Girls who once thought education was impossible now carry books proudly, walking the path he once walked. Sometimes, when meetings end, he still calls me auntie teacher. And whenever I see him in polished suits, speaking in boardrooms filled with powerful people, my mind drifts back to that dusty evening in Ibadan. That day when a trembling boy stood at my gate, holding a torn exercise book. I realize now, God was testing me with a seed. And I almost missed the forest it would grow into. Kindness is a seed. It may sleep for years, but when it blooms, it will find its way back to the giver in ways you cannot imagine.